What's up? This is Diva, delivered, inspired, victorious, anointed, and it's your hoodlums back for the 2-2, okay? You know, I was trying to be like the 9-9 and 2000, but I'm really too old for that mess anyway. Tonight, I have with me, I'm honored to have Erika Jones, Esquire, with me. We're just gonna chat a little bit about last year, this year, what we're looking for. But the first thing we're gonna talk about is that pastor spitting on somebody. Now, Erika, listen, I didn't even watch the video because when I heard about it actually by, you know, I'm always seeing what Candace Benbow was doing, and she was talking about it. I'm like, Michael Todd, let me go look. And all I did was Google his name and spit came up. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, now, I get it, that I do a lot of unconventional things to kind of drive home my sermon's message. I did one called Superman is Real. And I had, you know how they have the crash bang comic book little things. I held up signs that said that, you know, and one time I turned the congregation into a choir because it was, you know, but when I don't know what, I think he got caught up in the hype. I think and it's easy to, and you probably know this too, as an attorney, as someone who does things that a lot of people don't do. When you do it and you do it well, people treat you like you are, you know, up here. And so when you start believing that hype, then you forget that you ain't Jesus. So I think that he meant well. I don't think that I don't know. There's a lot of things that he says that reek with misogyny to me. And whenever I hear a preacher who is a misogynist, or even something that sounds like it's misogynist, or that their gospel, even though they are Black, is steeped in white supremacy, I feel some type of way. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, to me, it just reeked of gimmick. And I feel like when you are trying to reach people, I know people think that, you know, you got to reach people that you've never reached before. So you got to try something new. So I get having illustrations, but this was number one, a gimmick. Yeah. I got to wonder, was the church member, was he in on it? Because I'll tell you, I'm saved, but I'm not that big. Okay.
They say maybe I don't know how true it is, but did you see his apology video?
I did, but I'm not that saved, because if he's put spit on me, I will swing on him. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you right now, I will just go ahead, because I mean, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. But even without a pandemic, I just think it was inappropriate. I don't think he needed to do that to get his point across. Yeah. And I just thought it was uncalled for.
Yeah. And it was unsanitary, uncalled for, disrespectful, and just nasty, you know, just nasty.
One of the worst things you can do to someone is to spit on them. Like, that's the ultimate sign of disrespect. And I'm sure he didn't mean it that way. But I think that's why it rubbed a lot of Black people, especially, the wrong way, because the history of spitting on someone's face. And so to do that, to prove your point, it's like, okay, you need a better way to reach people, because I think the opposite happened. He lost a lot of people. Yeah. And there are a lot of people who had never heard of him. Like, I was already familiar with him and his ministry, but now you have gone viral, but not for the right reason.
Exactly. And I'm gonna be honest with you, if he had a spit on me, he would have caught these hands, because and so I guess I ain't all that saved either.
I'm saved, but I ain't that saved.
Because it's like, to me, religion has taken away the power of God, if you ask me. Religion, and I know that I'm a pastor and I express my belief in the divine through the AME Zion Church, but that doesn't mean that everything that AME Zion is putting down, I'm eating. You see what I'm saying? Because I think for myself, and that's why I went to seminary, so I could know where to look and how to look for the answers to the questions that I have, which was the same reason why I studied psychology, because I wanted to see if I was really crazy or if I was just garden variety nuts, you know. But
Well,
yeah,
I think we've lost sight of relationship, and it's become too much about religion is really what it is.
Yes.
And I think particularly over the last 2 years, when a lot of people have not been able to worship in person, and a lot of people are live streaming, a lot of churches have struggled because if you don't have bodies in the building, some people aren't giving anyway to the work of the kingdom. And when they're sitting home, if they're at home live streaming, they're probably not, pulling out their phones or whatever and giving. So I do think there's some ministries who are trying to figure out new ways to engage people, to bring in new people, but this just was not the way. And you have a lot of people who it was the opposite way, like, this is why I don't go to church, and this is why I don't do this. And so rather than bringing in people during a time where there's so much uncertainty with what's going on with the pandemic and everything else, you are turning off people because they're like, what they got to do with the Bible? And there are places in the Bible where, Jesus did similar things, but it's like, well, you Jesus.
Exactly.
So,
and it's just, I don't know. I see in my journey, I have watched a lot of preachers on TV. I used to watch Jensen Franklin. I used to watch him a lot. And then when Obama became president, I started hearing something different in his preaching that rubbed me the wrong way. And there were several of them that I used to listen to. I used to watch TBN religiously. Do you hear me? I used to watch TBN every day. I used to send in money and get them little toys and raggedy things that they would send you. I did all of that. I was believing that stuff. Paula White, I was a big Paula White. But let me tell you, when I stopped looking at Paula White, when she got them boobs so big that she couldn't lay her arms down at her side. Now, why does a preacher need fake boobies that big? She has since got them, back down to a regular size, but that was when she was with her first husband and things were going on and she was trying to, I guess, save her marriage. I don't know. I'm not trying to judge her, but I'm a preacher. My boobs are naturally big and I would like to get rid of them. So I don't know. And I think that there are women who are of different chest size or breast size. And it, for me, became, when she was preaching, I was like, she can't put her hands down here. She can't do, what's she gonna do with them? And it was a distraction to me. Now, there are people who have large breasts and they know how to not make them the center of attention. And I think
right here.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? And they don't have to be the center of attention. And you're an attorney, you're in the courtroom, so you know how to dress to be appropriate and fly at the same time. That's what I like. When I first saw you in court, I know I talk about that all the time, but when I first saw you in court, you came in there on them heels and you walked in there like you was about your business and you did not have time to play and you did not play and you got them things done. And I was like, wow. And I guess it's the confidence that I saw in you that I have always wanted. I've always wanted to be that confident in my gifts, in my abilities. But there's always that little voice back there saying, girl, you ain't nobody listening. You don't want nobody want to hear that mess. But anyway.
That voice is a hater and don't listen to that voice.
Yeah.
But I never want my boobies or any part of me to enter the room before I do.
Yes.
And so that's why I always try to, quiet the little puppies down, because I want people to hear what I have to say and not be focused on my chest or anything else, about my appearance.
Yeah.
And so if she's really, going back to Paula White, I don't even remember this about the extra large boobs, but if you're really trying to speak the word and teach the word, you shouldn't want anything that's going to distract from that. Exactly. And so that kind of makes you wonder what her real purpose was. But she said some other things, particularly around election time, that had people really think about, what's going on with this lady, calling on the angels in Africa and all kinds of other crazy talk. And so a lot of really conservative or evangelical ministers really were exposed at that point, during the election. So even though there were a lot of things that we had to deal with that were unfortunate, it did reveal a lot of people's true natures and intentions to us. And so I'm thankful for that, because I think we realized a lot of the people that we were following were not worthy of us following them. There were false prophets.
Exactly. And I think what happens is they mimic our style, the call and response, the way we are animated storytellers. When we are preaching a sermon, when we are telling a story, well, I'm sure when you are presenting your case, it's gonna be it's gonna be flamboyant, it's gonna be everything that it needs to be to drive your point home. It's gonna be entertaining. And they copy that. Jesse Duplantis, Rod Parsley, Paula White, Joyce Meyer, all of those, I really used to pay attention to them. And as I started gaining more knowledge, I started seeing some things that I didn't like. And then I got to the point where I didn't want to listen to white preachers. I just didn't want to listen to them because, like, Paula White was completely blinded to the fact that saying calling angels from Africa for a man who obviously hated Black people, and to say that God would do that, that's being presumptuous, and it's being insulting to our intelligence. And so I think some people woke up to that. And there were many, there's one pastor, his name is Robert Jeffress. And we watched him in one of the classes, one of the preaching classes I had. And I struggled to listen to that man preach, because you're talking about xenophobia, homophobia, white supremacy, and it sounded like a Trump rally. And I was like, that was the hardest sermon. But there are people who honestly believe that they are right. They honestly believe that they have cornered the market on who God is and what God does and how God does what God does. And they have the formula. And if you do it any other way, you are going to hell. And I think that is, I don't know where hell is. I don't know if hell is real or not, but I know that I don't have the keys to it, so I can't tell nobody who's going there. What I'm trying to do is, if it's real, I'm trying to keep from going there. That's what I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna live like it's real, because
exactly.
I can't afford to not be right on it. So we gonna live this life like it's a real place. I'm gonna assume, what I read and what I've been taught, because what if it's not real? Okay, exactly. But what if it is?
But I would rather believe that it is and find that it's not, than believe that it's not and find that it is. So I definitely want to be living like that. For sure. So I want to ask you, I want to switch it up a little bit. I want to ask you, what was the hardest lesson that 2021 taught you?
Well, for me personally, so I'm an extrovert. Believe it or not, a lot of people know I'm an extrovert. And so the working from home piece was really hard for me. A lot of people have talked about working from home and how great it is. And I can think of examples where for some people, it really was a godsend to be able to work from home, but it was hard for other people, especially, when kids were home from school or learning from home. And so you had to be a work at home mom or dad, and you were, a school teacher, you were the IT person, you were a cafeteria. I mean, you had to do all of that and also try to do your job. I didn't even have that. But to me, it was just, when I was working from home, I was so lonely. And I felt so isolated, especially when you live alone. Yeah. And so I never thought of it before, but I had more self-doubt in 2021 than I've ever experienced in my entire life. Yeah. And I think it was able to creep in because I was alone and isolated for so much of the year. And so I was alone with my thoughts, which being alone with your thoughts can be a good thing, but sometimes being alone can make you start to wonder and doubt, Yeah. And so I just felt very isolated. It's a lot of people are like, I don't ever want to go back, into the office. And I'm like, please, just let me. But, I go into the office most days. I've not been in the last 2 days because of the weather. But I go in and there's no one there. And that's fine. I might see one person way down the hall. But for me, I really struggled in 2021 just with the isolation piece. And also, I think, when the pandemic first hit in 2020, most of us thought it would be an inconvenience that would last weeks, maybe months. We never thought that we were going to be here, 2 years later. So I think there's also, in addition to the isolation, was the exhaustion from all of it, of not knowing when it was going to end. Every time you thought we were almost there, then here's a new variant, here's something else. And so that moving finish line, made it very difficult to continue on because you didn't know where the end was.
Yeah. And we still don't. And that, to me, just what you said, I had worked so hard for my MDiv. And then just before my birthday in 2020 is when everything locked down. So I didn't have a birthday party. Well, I never had birthday parties, but I didn't have a birthday celebration. I didn't get to March. And that was the thing that kind of got to me. I was really looking forward to getting hooded and getting, and marching and all that kind of stuff, because I'd worked so hard for it and was driving 4 hours for the first 3 years. And the final year, I was up, a little closer. But that right there just kind of made me feel like something was stolen from me, So I went into 2021, but the same year I got married.
There you go.
So it was the best thing and it was the worst thing. And I was just talking to my husband today and saying, isn't it awesome that we actually have been forced to spend all this time together to really get to know each other? Because 36 years ago and then now, you see what I'm saying? So we've had an opportunity to get to know each other. So that's kind of like the thing that I've learned, the best thing that I've learned from 2021 is that life goes on. And you have to figure out how to find your joy while you are alive. And that was really what I learned from Joy. You knew her, right? Joy Livity, the poet, Joy James. Yeah. Right. So she was with me for a couple of months before she basically passed away, and she had made me her medical power of attorney. And I did not even understand what I was signing up for, because in my mind, she was going to be, I got to make sure I sign in on the thing. She was going to go and have her radiation, and I would help her and I would do, be with her and be a good support. And then she would be healed. And then I would be a part of her story, the story of, that's what I thought. And I prayed so hard. I prayed so hard for one thing, and that was that she could get to see her baby one more time because she wanted to. And it didn't happen. And I had a crisis of faith after that. It was a couple of months before, and I had to really work through it. But then what I finally realized, before she was still in the hospital at Duke, and she texted me. And, just back and forth, how you doing today? I got something to eat, blah, blah, blah. She said, okay, shifting gears. I want to give you your flowers now. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, I appreciate everything that you've been doing for me, and I want to gift you with a printer for your t-shirt business because I believe in the business. And so I had to go back to that in order to really reclaim my joy, because I was angry at God. I didn't understand why someone, such a light, would have to suffer so much. Because, when you see people and they're sick and they have cancer and you say, oh, wow, she lost a lot of weight, but she's smiling, so she must be doing all right. But I saw beyond the curtain, and it was brutal. It was brutal, and it was, and it caused problems between me and my husband too, because I didn't get, I don't want to say get his permission, because I didn't have to get his permission to do anything, but I did not have his acquiescence. I just said, oh yeah, we're going to do this. And he was very supportive. He came right along with me, but then it quickly became something else. But thank God we were able to talk through it, work through it, and we're good. But it really taught me that now I want to live my life in a way that I am satisfied, that when I lay down and go to sleep every night, I know that I gave the best of myself in whatever I did, even if it was just beating my husband in dominoes. It mostly beats me, but you know what I'm saying? And so that was the good thing that I think, even with all the tragedy, all the pain, the thing I took away. And then my dad got sick too. So that was like, I just felt like it was all piling on. But I had to realize some things about myself. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, and I'm not talking about with your eyes, I'm talking about with your third eye, and you have to be honest about things like, well, I'm selfish. I thought everything had to go my way. I think everybody has to do what I want them to do, and I'm sitting up here acting like I'm the victim, when in all actuality, I'm the selfish one. I'm the one that's caused the problem. I'm the one that didn't consider other people's feelings. And then that's a hard thing to look at when it comes to yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, anywho.
And to your point, like I started going to therapy last year. So I'm so thankful that I started doing that, because a lot of people think, oh, well, what's wrong? It's like, well, you got to look at it as like a maintenance thing, a tune-up, if you will.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't have to wait until you're already, broken. You go before you get to that point. I did have a situation that made me think, well, maybe I should go talk to someone about that. But, I don't plan to stop one anytime soon. Like, I think it's something that is kind of part of my, your routine.
Yes, absolutely. And it becomes, you understand. Hold on a minute. Let me make sure that they'll let me in soon. Okay. You have to understand that in order to grow, you have to do the work. And as intelligent as I am, and just because I have a degree in psychology, that doesn't give me all of the tools that I need to work through all of my issues. Because first of all, as a Black person in America, we suffer trauma daily. We
microaggressions, all kinds of
issues all day long. And so just to do that, and then you got other stuff. You got sickness in your family, you got money problems, you got loneliness, you got whatever other thing is going on, and you put all that in a pot. And some days it is just too much.
Absolutely. I had a friend who was talking on Facebook about depression, and how they didn't feel that they had the right to be depressed. Like, they had the feelings, but they didn't feel like they had the right to, because there were so many people who were in worse situations.
Wow.
I'm getting some kind of feedback.
Okay. Wait a minute. Hold on. Is that better?
Or maybe it's not feedback. Maybe it's just a different.
No, it's really just that I'm on this, yeah, I'm in a church service that is. Listen to me. I'm just gonna look at it on Facebook Live. That way I can mute my phone, because I don't have to do anything anyway, but just be there. So I'm just gonna do that because I'm required to be there. So I'm gonna be there. And there it is right now.
Do whatever you need to do.
All right. So I'm watching it on Facebook Live so nobody can hear me. So that's great. All right. And I'm not really watching, but I better not say that because I might get myself in trouble. But I'm here. I'm here. Okay, but anyway, what we talking about?
We're talking about lessons from 2021.
Yeah.
That was just, validating your feelings, because you talked about, you felt like there was loss and you were kind of angry with God. I think that a lot of people had those feelings of something had been taken from them. There were a lot of people who were looking forward to different things in 2020 and 2021, and they didn't get to see those things come to pass because of the pandemic. And so all of the excitement and then nothing. Like I think about the graduates, like you talked about your graduation, and I still feel so bad for my niece who graduated from high school, and they didn't get a graduation. They didn't get a prom. They didn't get a senior trip. They lost all of that. So they spent their last year really not even with their friends, and then had no graduation. And they'll never get that back. Then she starts college, and she's in college, but they're,
she's
not
home
on campus.
virtual.
She's home.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That is the thing that I see that is going to change some people. Because like, okay, the first year, there was no graduation. There was kind of a virtual something. But then the next year in 20, but then 21, they started doing, other little things and drive-bys and stuff like that. But I ain't getting none of that. I just walked down the street with my cap and gown on, and my daughter took a video. But I can say that I am a part of the first virtual graduating class from Hood Theological Seminary. I was in the inaugural virtual graduating class, So you just have to pick. Today I woke up and I meditated, something that I haven't done in a while, but I've started meditating, and it centered me. And I woke up today thinking, today I will embrace joy, period. And I need to do that every day. I need to set my intention and say, today I will embrace joy. I release all of the negative energy that fear and self-doubt have given me. I release all of that, and I simply want to embrace joy. And I did that today, and I liked it. And I think I'm gonna keep on doing it because I had a good day, had a productive day with my t-shirts. They look nice. I'm so proud of myself because when I started out doing them, they looked like somebody's grandma was doing them in the back. But I didn't want to give up, and I kept trying. And my husband got me a Cricut for Christmas, which cuts the vinyl, and you can I already had the t-shirt press. So now it's taking it to another level, and I'm just excited about it. And I'm gonna ride this thing till the wheels fall off, baby. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop doubting myself, and I'm gonna jump right in, and I'm gonna start promoting the t-shirts because now they look really good. And I gotta get me a model to take some pictures, because anyway. But that's the thing. I want to embrace being alive, not just existing. For so many years, depression and anxiety had me just existing. I wasn't living. You would see me out and I would go to a poetry reading and I would be all sassy and spicy and do my little thing, and then go home and sit on the couch and be just depressed and lonely. So I don't want to do that no more. I want to live.
Absolutely not. But it's funny you should say that about joy, because when you were talking, it made me think about, the saying that someone woke up and chose violence.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you got to wake up and choose joy, because sometimes joy don't choose you. You got to choose it.
Mm-hmm. That's good right there. That's good. That's good.
Sometimes you have to decide when you wake up, it doesn't matter what happens today, I'm going to be joyful.
Yes.
You have to choose it, because a lot of times you wake up, you don't feel that.
No. And when you struggle with depression, for me, I know that if I can get my feet on the floor in the morning, I got a chance to beat it. But if I lay in the bed too long, I get comfortable. And then all of the thoughts, because once I'm awake, I'm awake. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can lay there, and then all of the negative self-talk starts. And then before you know it, I've been in the bed for 2 weeks and I can't do that no more. So I learned, and that's why I studied psychology, because I learned behavior modification techniques. And that's why getting my feet on the floor in the morning is the biggest, the hardest thing I have to do all day. And then now that I said, okay, I'm going to set my intention every day. Okay, we're going to see how it goes. I'm trying it. We're going to see how it goes.
I mean, yeah, being intentional and just showing up for yourself. Sometimes that, like you said, it's just literally getting up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part about, I'm going to get up today. I'm going to choose joy and keep going. And, you know, a lot of people start the year, they have resolutions, they have a vision board. I'm huge on vision boards.
I've never done.
I did not do one this year. People are like, oh my God, you did not do a vision board. This is the first year I've not done one. You know, I used to actually teach the courses. I would teach vision board workshops to young women, because I believe that there's power in, you know, writing the vision, making it plain as the Bible says, but being able to visualize what the goals are. And the reason why I decided not to do a vision board this year is because one of my biggest issues, you know, just thinking back over the last, at this point, almost 2 years, is I'm very goal oriented. I'm all about making a list, checking off things. And there were so few things I got to check off the last 2 years that were beyond my control. But it made me feel like you didn't accomplish anything, which is of course not true.
No, because don't you have a new position and stuff?
Right, which is kicking my behind. That's okay. I'm
well, listen, you are well able. I know that. I have
a lot of work. It's just a matter of, you know, you start a new job, during a pandemic. You don't know half your coworkers because you've never seen them. And the job has been vacant for several months. So you're doing all this work that piled up.
You catching up.
Yeah. Right. And so when I was doing all this work, working all these crazy hours, and again, I'm not seeing anybody, nobody's in the office, I live alone. It's like all I do is work. But I wasn't checking off things. You know, there were so many things I wanted to do that were dead in the water because of the pandemic. And a lot of things that I used to find joy, I couldn't do. And so I'm big on going to concerts. I'm big on going to festivals and doing all that stuff.
Girl, I know I'm vicariously through you all the time.
Well, briefly, because I wasn't able to do that. And so I still had the work, more work than usual, but I didn't have those little pockets of relaxation and so that was one of the reasons why I was like, I need to find some sort of outlet. But yeah, I'm hopeful that in 2022 I'll be able to enjoy myself more. But I didn't make a vision board because I just didn't want to make another one of those boards, all these things up there to accomplish. Like, look at what's on your vision board for the last 2 years. Your goals have not changed. Those goals are still valid. Delayed does not mean denied. Focus on that.
I say that all the time.
So that's why I didn't make a vision board this year, because I have the vision board from the last 2 years, and it's like, we're gonna work on those things.
That's good. And see, that for me, this my newest venture is something that I have been actually dreaming for years. I have a notebook with designs that I have been drawing for over 20 years, carrying them around with me. And some of them are not even valid anymore. You know, they're not even in fashion, you know, out of date, stuff like that. But
everything comes back.
Yeah, but I have really been, it's crazy. I've been dreaming t-shirt designs. And then I get up in the morning and I make the design, and then I press the t-shirts in the afternoon. And I really like it. I really get caught up, but I have to do it a certain way. It has to be methodical. So that keeps my mind working. If I do it in a certain, you know, I need boundaries. I'm not the type of person that can just I'm not that disciplined. I'm not as disciplined as you. That's why I'm thinking about the PhD, but I know I have the passion, but do I have the work ethic? That's what I'm asking myself. Do I have the work ethic for a PhD in homiletics? Because this ain't, I'm not talking about the D-Min where you go for 2 years and then, you're doctor, you're reverend doctor. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about studying homiletics, and there's only one program in the country that has African American preaching in sacred rhetoric. And one of my professors allowed me to preach for them. Now, they had preachers like Freddie Haynes and Dominique Robinson and Reginald Sharp Jr. And the person who actually led the analysis on my sermon was Reginald Sharp Jr. And I've been watching him since he first started preaching when he was like 17 or 18. That's how long I've been watching him on YouTube. And to have these, and Freddie Haynes, my best friend in Richmond, she would send me audio CDs of his preaching, because he would come to whatever the church is in Richmond once a year, and they would have this revival, and she would send me. And to have those people say to me that you should be teaching people how to incorporate poetry in preaching. Girl, let me tell you something. You could knock me over with a feather. I wasn't no more good. Because these are giants in the preaching world. And they're also kind of radical and outside of the box. And for me to receive the type of feedback that I got from them, I couldn't even write it down. My friend Angelica, you met Angelica. Angelica was writing down what they said to me, and she sent it to me in an email because I knew I couldn't. I was just so overwhelmed. And so it begs the question from me, are you really ready for what it's going to take to be a newlywed? Well, 2 years is newlywed. We ain't quite 2 years yet. But to be newly married, to be trying to start a business, and to be going to school at the same time. And I don't know for sure yet. So I'm just gonna take it one day at a time and see. I know that doing things like this, I do it because I love the discourse. I love to hear other opinions. I like to discuss issues with intelligent people who think, especially women, especially Black women, because I know who we are, and I know that Black girl magic is real. It's a real thing, So that's just how I feel. But I want to ask you, what books do you have on your list to read this year?
Well, I can just look right over here because I have this, it's not a bad habit, but I buy books, and then before I even crack that one open, I'm buying another book. Mm-hmm. It's just something I do. Yeah. And so at the top of my list is the 1619 Project with Nicole Hannah Jones, who I call my cousin. I've never met this woman, but she's last name Jones. I'm Jones. So
that's your cousin. That's your cousin.
Not really. I just say it, but yeah, I claim her.
Yeah.
1619 Project. I have still not finished, because it's very thick, Barack Obama's A Promised Land. Mm-hmm. That's something I'm going to finally finish. Yeah, I'm literally looking at my shelf. Will Smith's book I've heard is very good. Mm-hmm. Cicely Tyson's memoir. I have Hood Feminism up there. You probably like that one.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's called Hood Feminism. I can remember being in line to vote, and I knew the lines were going to be really long, and reading that while I was in line, and the people were looking like, what is she reading? And I'm like, Hood Feminism. But those are the big ones, because they're all pretty thick books. And I read so much for work is the problem. Like, I can read a few hundred pages, but it's all work stuff. And so I need to give myself more time to read things for my own, I would say fulfillment, but to educate myself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that enough. I mean, I do watch TV, but I do need to buckle down, because there are people who will like have their list of these are my favorite books, and they'll, wrangle off 20 books from last year, and I'm like, oh, those are the 20 books that are your favorite, or those are the 20 you read? And it's like, oh, that's just my 20 favorite. And I'm like, well, how many books did you read last year?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a list that had 50 books. Like, that was like my top 50 books of 2021. And I'm like, okay, so how many books you read in a year? But if you read a couple books a week, I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I just don't. I mean, I probably could make some different decisions, but definitely 1619 projects at the very top of the list. Nicole Hannah Jones, gave a speech recently. She didn't say where it was, where people were really upset about her being there, her being divisive. And I think she handled it beautifully. Like, she has a lot of situations where she starts talking, and I think all of these words are hers, and they're actually MLK's words.
Yeah.
It just kind of goes to the point that every year, you'll have some people like to whitewash his message and make him out to be something that he was not, because, it's more palatable if he's kind of like this safe figure. And it's like, he was way more radical than people like to give him credit for. And he was an enemy at the time. I mean, he was assassinated. He was an enemy at the time. He was not loved. He's got to the point now where we look at him as this figure that is, well loved, and everyone sees him and so, oh, MLK, but that's not who he was at the time of his death.
Exactly.
And so I was very appreciative of the way she handled that, because they thought, look at her up there, she's spewing all this stuff, and it's like, actually, those are his words. You don't know who he is. You don't celebrate him appropriately every year. And don't talk about MLK and post the quotes that you think are, the safest ones. They don't want to use
exactly.
Right. And then, especially for the politicians, then you go back into session and you push for legislation, or you block legislation, which is the exact opposite of what he would want. Like, you can't talk about his legacy and then block voting rights.
Exactly.
And we see it every year.
Every year. And it's disgusting, really, because there are some people who take it to one extreme and other people who take it to the other. Like, like, come on and get your, come to the club and get in free at last, thank God Almighty, free at last till 11:30, stuff like that. And then there's the people who want to continue to be just as racist as they ever wanted to be, and then quote, like you said, all the benign quotes, and they don't even really understand what's going on. So I'm really kind of over. I'm kind of over the political situation in our country. I'm over it. I'm tired, I guess. I'm not trying to explain nothing to nobody no more. I'm not trying to get nobody to see my side. I'm not trying to get nobody to recognize my humanity. I'm going to recognize my humanity. You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to act accordingly. I'm going to do the things that's going to enhance my humanity. Now, does that mean I'm gonna stop caring about people? Of course not, because I can't. That's who I am. I'm a pastor. Of course I care about people, but I cannot waste my energy on people who want to, as soon as you start talking about race, the first thing they want to say is black on black crime. Honey, that's crime of proximity. More white people kill white people too, because they're around each other. More Hispanic people kill Hispanic people because they're around each other. Stop trying to make it like black on black crime is really something different than crime of proximity. So I ain't got, I'm over it. I'm over it.
I mean, I think it's fair, because there's some people who are committed to misunderstanding you. They're not trying to see things from your perspective. And so you really are wasting your breath. And so when I see people who are in these, long drawn out battles and disagreements on social media, and I'm like, why are you even engaging and going back and forth with this person? That's one thing I don't do. Like, I'll say what I have to say and then I'm done with it, because no one's ever read a post and say, you know what, you're right. Like, people don't do that. People dig in. Because unfortunately, we don't seem to realize that it's okay to change your opinion. It's okay to get new information and adjust your perspective based on the new information. But people take that as a sign of weakness. Like we do that all the time. For example, with politicians, like if someone, voted for something 20 years ago, we bring up the way someone voted 20 years ago, which I think can be unfair when you consider how much have you changed in 20 years. And so we don't allow people to grow and mature and adjust their perspectives. And so people have really dug in the last couple of years, and they made things political that are not political at all.
Exactly.
That's their way now to basically, they use politics as a way to pretty much not address the issue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's partisan. Oh, that's a political. It's not a political. Like why has wearing masks become a political thing? Yeah. That's just a distraction from, the real issue. And so sometimes I too get sick of talking about politics. I don't think it's avoidable in some contexts, but I definitely understand people who are over it and don't want to engage, because it is frustrating and exhausting when half the country is on the other side and not trying to see other perspectives.
And that's the thing. You can't tell me what I know. You can tell me what you think about what I say, but you can't tell me what I know, because what I know is what I know. And 9 times out of 10, if it's me, I done backed it up and found a reputable source just in case. So all of that's too much for me now. When I'm trying to embrace joy, you see what I'm saying? When you're
choosing joy.
Exactly. If you're trying to embrace joy, you cannot have things like that because it gets my blood pressure up. It makes me angry. It makes me want to hit somebody, and that's not joyful.
You're exactly right. I mean, my birthday was last Friday, and I literally had to get off the phone with someone. Thank you. I had to get off the phone with someone Thursday night because I was in a good mood when I left work on Thursday, because it's like my birthday's tomorrow. I had been working hard, so I wouldn't have to go into the office and do any work on my birthday. So I was free for the long weekend. And this person, I could tell, was trying to rile me up. And I literally said, I'm not going to argue with you tonight. I'm in a good mood. My birthday's tomorrow. This conversation is over. Because I chose, it's like, I'm not going to let this person, gaslight me and argue with me about something that I feel. And so sometimes you have to just say, nope, not going to engage, not going to do this because I choose joy.
And you know what I've started saying? You want to argue. I can't argue.
Okay, Vlad.
Because it makes me laugh. And I mean, it's really necessary. Whatever techniques, whatever tactics that I can use to just really, as they would say in positive psychology, increase my subjective well-being, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I'm also going to do what I can to support other women, and let them know, look, sis, this is the thing that I do, Erika. And I've been doing my, I do my little morning coffee videos and stuff. Actually started doing morning coffee with DIVA, the podcast. And I have not been promoting it, but I'm doing it because I went through a lot of stuff right after my mother died. My mother died when I was 31. And after my mother died, my marriage started falling apart. I had repressed memories that came back, and I was a basket case. And my mother was gone. My sisters were grieving. My grandmother was grieving the death of her only child. And Daddy was grieving. And I didn't really have any close friends that I could talk to. And I kind of went off the deep end, and there was nobody to say, hey, stop. And so I try to make myself available. So I get on and do this podcast, and I talk about all these things, which maybe nobody's listening to, but my hope is that one day, just one woman who is in the position that I was in at that time will just get on and Google something, and a keyword will bring up that rambling discussion that I had about loving myself, or that discussion I had about being a bully and having to acknowledge it all these years later when I was younger, all that kind of stuff. Somebody's going to need that one day, I feel like. And that doesn't mean that I think everybody should listen to what I have to say, just the ones who need it. So I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm gonna keep on doing it. Even if nobody ever listens, I'm gonna keep on doing it, because I feel like if I'd had that, just somebody to gather me up and say, look here, girl, you better stay your behind home, or stop wearing it. You don't, whatever it was, somebody who would speak to me in love and call me onto the carpet and say, sis, get yourself together. Because I literally back then, and it's been over 20 years, over 25 years, I was out there just being ratchet, and I could have been filmed at 11, but grace and seriously, but grace and mercy covered me, and even though I didn't have anybody that I felt like I could talk to and confide in, God pulled me out of that. And because I remember one day I'm just on my knees praying on the floor, crying, because I was hurting so bad. And I was like, God, I cannot do this anymore. I can't do this by myself. You're gonna have to help me. Because I had been, that was the day or the day after that I was driving across a bridge in Charlotte. And I said to myself, another car was coming. And I said, if I just make this hard left, it'll all be over. And that's when I knew that I needed something. I needed some help. And then I cried out to God, and I could hear just like this quiet voice, you need therapy, get some help, girl. And I did. And I've been popping in and out since then. And I just want to be able to reach a hand out to a sister who feels like she's going down for the last time and ain't nobody there. That's it. That's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me see. Listen, Erika, I am so happy that you have joined me tonight. I don't even know what time it is. We've been here for an hour. Thank you for being here. I'm going to call on you again, because every time I call you, you say yes. And so thank you for joining this one hoodlum. You're an honorary hoodlum now anyway. So for Hoodlums Talking Trash, Erika Nicole Jones, Esquire, you are in Raleigh now or Charlotte?
I live and work in Raleigh.
Okay, all right. My daughter's there. I think that she would benefit from knowing you, but because you're such a together young lady. But she's a mom, and she's going back to grad school now, so at Central. So she probably ain't got time. She ain't even got time to comb her hair up, probably, because grad school. I don't know how people can do it with children, with small children. I never.
No, I mean, I went to law school. I didn't have to deal with kids. I couldn't imagine doing what I did with little ones at home.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's really hard. It's got to be, because my kids were, when I started back to school, my kids were in high school, and they had so many things, so many demands, that they had to be met. And then I was trying to do math, and I ain't never been good at math. So, but anyway, Erika, thank you for joining me for this, I don't know, the first Hoodlums Talking Trash in 2022. Any last words you'd like to leave with us before we go for the night?
Put me on the spot. I mean, I think, I've already talked about it before, and it's just getting up and choosing yourself and choosing joy.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing in 2022. We choosing joy.
We are.
All right. So this has been Diva, Delivered, Inspired, Victorious, Anointed with Erika Nicole Jones, Esquire. And this has been Hoodlums Talking Trash. Join us for the next one. All right. Bye-bye. Don't leave. I'm just going to stop the recording.